Thank you for the invitation to participate in today's session. I'm just going to be sharing my thoughts with you on bridging of the digital divide and how we can, or the impact of the digital divide on the youth in South Africa in particular, and how we can try as a group to reduce this digital divide, how we can help to prepare our youth for IR, knowing or acknowledging that in South Africa we do have a major issue with the digital divide. So if we just start, and I think most of your talks have already focused around this, but we often speak about 4IR as being this important conversation about South Africa's journey into the fourth industrial revolution. In this journey, we speak about technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, drones, 3D printing, big data, and so on. But the real question is who actually gets to participate in this 4IR. Can you just confirm that you are seeing my slides, please?
Yes, I am seeing them. Yes,
All right,
and hearing
thank
you
you
clearly.
All right, thank you. So what we need to question here is whether 4IR will be a revolution of an opportunity for all South Africans, or will it actually deepen this divide that we have to those who are connected and those who are left behind? Some concepts I will just touch on today is inclusive training and innovation, which can create future-ready human capital for South Africa. Personally, I feel that 4IR for us holds a double-edged sword. We know that the fourth industrial revolution offers extraordinary opportunities, for example, in agriculture, the use of drones and sensors to make agriculture smart, mining safety through the use of enhanced robotics and Internet of Things. In healthcare, this can be improved through telemedicine, and then, of course, the education sector, which can be expanded by virtual reality and AI tutors. But alongside this promise itself, the reality is stark. South Africa has one of the highest inequality levels in the world. So on one side, we have the youth who we're trying to engage in 4IR. And then on the other end, we have youth who don't have basic access to technology and to these facilities. So while we want them to experiment with coding, robotics, esports, on the other hand, we have learners in rural schools, for example, where internet access is unreliable, teachers themselves lack digital training, and where exposure to emerging technologies is minimal. Let us look at a few examples. In the global arena, we have what is known as Flying Lab South Africa, which is a youth in innovation initiative. And this is part of a network supported by UNICEF and We Robotics. They run rural youth workshops to introducing them to cutting-edge technologies like drones, virtual reality, AI applications, and 3D printing. So when the youth go for these workshops, they are exposed to how drones are used in various sectors like agriculture, disaster relief, mapping, medicine delivery, and so on. They look at virtual reality for immersive education, allowing them to participate actively in the education process. They look at AI applications for problem solving, and then 3D printing for local innovation. What these workshops do is more than just showcase what the technology is, but they also allow the young people to experience the technology, to build the technology through robotics, and to create this new 4IR revolution by experimenting with these technologies. So the result here is that learners who once saw themselves as outsiders to technology now begin to see themselves as inventors, as future engineers, and perhaps even innovators in this space. So the question that we now have is related to the statement that only 20% of graduates in South Africa are from STEAM fields. And this means that many of the pipeline of talent that we have for 4IR is rather thin. Unless we actively broaden the participation, we risk being consumers rather than creators of technology. At UKZN, we had 3 students recently presenting or showcasing their entrepreneurship skills through their own innovation. And the one that really stood out for me was a student who is a third-year medical student who developed an app that's now going to consolidate purchases from multiple stores. So if you're looking for an item and a single supermarket doesn't have it, through his app, you're able to search which other supermarket has it and complete your purchase. He won the national competition, the EDHE competition for this development or this innovation. And he's won other multiple prizes at local and national level. What stood out for me was that the student came from an extremely rural area of KwaZulu-Natal, where there aren't even shops anywhere near where he stays. But he embraced technology to such an extent, and he found a gap in the market that he took time out from his studies of medical studies, which is quite demanding, to develop this app. So if we give our students that opportunity to innovate, we can then allow them that opportunity to become creators of new technology in this 4th industrial revolution. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip that video. But what we do have is here another example of a local initiative, the initiative by Siyavula Education, which uses mobile-based adaptive learning to bring maths and science to thousands of learners, including those in under-resourced schools. The way in which they get this material across to the students is that they're not reliant on the students being actively online or having access to data or connectivity in order to complete their studies. And the second advantage that they have is their models are designed on adaptive learning, so that if a student or if a learner is not familiar with the content and they, for example, they're going through fractions and they haven't mastered it, the learning curve then allows them to spend more time on fractions until they master that concept before moving on to another concept. And this clearly shows for us how technology can democratize access to knowledge if designed inclusively. The second example that we have here is of Girl Code. Girl Code, once again, is a South African initiative. It's a non-profit organization that empowers young women to code, build apps, and enter the ICT space. They host both hackathons and boot camps. In the boot camps, they train thousands of young women on the use of technology, coding for robotics, how to build apps, for small community-related events and community-related tasks that need to be completed. And this helps to bridge not only the digital divide, but also an area which I'm very passionate about, which is the gender divide in technology, getting females into the space of technology. So where does this all lead us to? This teaches us that training has to be inclusive. It cannot be a luxury, but it is rather a necessity. 4IR is not just about adopting new tools. It is about shaping the future of our workforce. The youth who can program drones to monitor crops, not just fly them. Teachers who can use AI tools to personalize learning, not to fear them. And communities that can leverage 3D printing to solve local challenges, whether it be from prosthetics to spare parts. The whole idea here is empowerment, empowerment through training, through proper transformation. If we do not prepare our human capital, the best technologies that we have will mean very little to us. So if we empower youth and communities, they can transform technologies into solutions for jobs, sustainability, and for social upliftment. But what is the reality check in South Africa? What are the challenges that we must confront? The first is connectivity gaps. Less than half of our rural schools have reliable internet. The second is educator readiness. How many of our educators and our teachers feel prepared for the adoption of digital tools in teaching? Gender equality. Women still remain underrepresented in STEM fields and ICT fields. And most importantly is the affordability of data costs and devices, both of which remain barriers in this fourth industrial revolution. So unless these systemic challenges are addressed, our digital divide will continue to hold us back, especially the communities who could benefit most from these technologies and from 4IR. They will be in the back seat. Some suggestions. Okay, maybe we do have a little bit of time for this video.
Key to your message was how we need to improve connectivity in order to uplift millions of people across the continent from poverty level. Tell me how you see that happening.
Look, I think the recognition is that there's a
Key to your message was how we need to improve connectivity in order to uplift millions of people across the continent from poverty level. Tell me how you see that happening.
Yeah. Look, I think the recognition is that there's a reservoir of untapped potential in the people that are not connected. So from my perspective as the minister here locally, the obsession that I have is how do I get the 15 million South Africans who are not connected to be digitally active, and from being digitally active to empower them with the skills to be able to be strong players in this economy. The key aspect is removing the barriers to access. Access is a major issue in South Africa, and what we are trying to do is find solutions of broadening the space to get access. Broadband connectivity is not going to get to every home or get to every individual in the country because of its own limitations. So you would have noticed that in the past couple of weeks we are talking about introducing a policy directive that we have tabled before the regulator to say, can you also provide clarity on the issue of equity equivalent programs in the ICT sector, so that we can open up the space for those investment for multinationals that might not meet the local ownership requirements, but that are willing to comply with the other provisions of being key players in here. The most important thing about that debate is market competition, right? And giving the user or the potential internet user freedom of choice. But it has to be in an equitable manner so that we don't harm the players that are already into the sector. The second thing is around devices. Smart devices, the cost of smart devices is exorbitantly high. And here it's because they are classified as luxury items. They carry ad valorem taxes that, quite frankly, in this day and age, having a smart device is a basic tool of communication. And because the world has evolved, I think also our taxation era needs to evolve to be able to say that if the South African government from the sixth administration has said that we need to get South Africa to 100% internet connectivity, and we have already identified that the cost of devices are one of those barriers, let's speak about either, because the taxman is never going to be willing to say, I'm stopping collecting from all these revenues. Let's look at reclassification as a first step. And then you can have different categories that classify what would be a luxury item. But the reality is that Africa in this day and age, we all want to connect through one means or the other. And smartphones, because of mobile internet penetration, is the most basic instrument of doing that. So that are some of the things that we are doing, advocacy within government to do that. And we've been very encouraged by how Treasury has been receptive to the idea.
So I'm sorry, in the interest of time, I'm just going to stop it at that point. But you can see that mobile internet penetration is really high, but we have a lack of devices, we have a lack of technology, we have a lack of access. So the important point here is that we need to look at the role of private-public partnerships to see how they can assist with reducing this digital divide. The three ways for me that we can help our youth by empowering them in the use of technology for better purposes is, firstly, we need to scale successful programs. This means not reinventing the wheel, but supporting initiatives like the examples we use today, Flying Labs, Siyavula, Girl Code, so that they can reach more rural schools and communities. We need to invest in what works. Secondly, we need to ensure that there is an integration of 4IR into the curricula from primary schools to universities, the embedding of AI literacy, coding, robotics, data skills. All of these need to be part of the learning process, not as optional extras, but as core competencies for every learner. And lastly, and most importantly, is to support educators as digital champions. So if teachers were as confident in technology as they are in their content, then learners themselves will become empowered in the use of this technology in 4IR. So to conclude here, just to state that for me, 4IR is a revolution of people, not just machines. In order to prepare our youth and our communities for 4IR, we have to look at not only adopting the latest technologies, but empowering them, ensuring that there is enough innovation to uplift everyone, whether it's a learner in a rural classroom, whether it's a student at a girl coding boot camp creating her first app, whether it's a small farmer that's using drones to improve the way in which he yields his turnover. The future of 4IR in South Africa cannot be left to chance. We have to look at deliberately including people, including communities, including the youth, deliberately empowering and deliberately focusing on reducing this digital divide. If we fail to do this, then 4IR will not just be a revolution of machines. It will be a revolution of machines. But if we do this correctly, then we will create a revolution of people, of opportunities, and of possibilities. A book, an open source book, which is freely accessible to all of you, which speaks about the hope of education in this new era of generative AI, artificial intelligence, 4IR, the use of digital teaching and learning, is called, the book is titled Stories of Hope, which I have co-edited with 4 colleagues or 5 colleagues from overseas. And for those of you who have an interest in education and you want to look at where education is heading in terms of this new era that we are in, please do download a free copy of this book. The website is available here. There's a QR code as well. It's open source access, so anybody can download it. It has multiple examples of how technology is integrated, and it's not a research-based book, but rather a creative piece book. We classify it as a creative piece book because the authors share their experiences and what they foresee as the future of education and what the hope is for education while we embrace 4IR, while we embrace all these technologies that we are exposed to in the classroom these days. Thank you for the opportunity, and I will end my presentation here.